it's a great day for where we are. I hope it's a great day where you are. We're going to have a wonderful show for you today. Listen, you know, I live in Virginia. Virginia was the old Dominion. It was stable, it was solid, and it was just remarkably well run. And then suddenly, we got invaded. Virginia was invaded by the Clintons. And Terry McAuliffe, who was the fundraiser for Bill Clinton, came in with a lot of money and picked up a seat as governor, so he's now our governor. Now we're learning things about this gentleman. Number one, he wanted to give all the felons the vote as soon as they got out of prison. And he violated the Constitution. The Supreme Court of Virginia said you can't do that. He still wanted to do it some way anyhow. Now we learn that he has a sort of a PAC, and they're giving money. But guess who they're giving the money to? It's something in the neighborhood of $450,000. I've heard as high as $750,000. I don't know which number is right, but it's a lot of money. And he's given it to a woman to run for the state Senate as a Democrat. Okay, but guess who that woman is? She is the wife of the man who is now the deputy director of the FBI in charge of supervising the Hillary Clinton emails. Now, does that not stink to high heaven? I ask you. Terry, isn't that amazing?
Well, I think that's one of the things we're going to be hearing about in the news more and more.
Well, but I mean, it makes you sick. But it now turns out, I listened to one, and I don't have the hard copy on it, that the governor of Virginia, as he was running, received $13 million from donors. But guess who the donors were? Donors to the Clinton Foundation. I mean, it's this interlocking thing. And then we learned there's a breach of the FEC rules having to do with what the campaign could buy and somebody else could buy. I mean, it
do you think that's why some of these illegal, I mean, obviously, it's why some of these illegal allegations don't stick?
Well, it's
layers deep.
It's just Teflon, and people say, oh, well, that's the Clinton, they can get away with murder. Some poor Army officer is getting a prison sentence for doing a fraction of what Hillary's been doing. Anyhow, they also lied to you. And you remember how the president promised that health care costs would go down by $2,500? You remember that? You remember if Congress passed Obamacare, every Democrat voted for it, not one Republican voted for it. Now the word is out. Starting this fall, I guess it is, premiums aren't going down, they're going up next year, way up.
Well, that news comes as there are also new questions about what we just discussed, the FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. Heather Sells has the story.
Early voting has already begun in Texas and Florida, and Donald Trump is hitting the Sunshine State hard. He's making political hay with the news that Obamacare premiums are about to rise sharply. The government says on average 25% next year, and many people will have just one insurer.
It's over for Obamacare, and Hillary Clinton wants to double down and make it more expensive, and it's not going to work.
He's also lashing out against polls that show Clinton ahead.
They are phony polls put out by phony media.
Clinton is campaigning with Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is bashing Trump for calling Clinton a nasty woman in the last debate.
Get this, Donald. Nasty women are tough. Nasty women are smart, and nasty women vote.
Clinton is facing a new revelation about the FBI probe into her emails that could raise more suspicions of political favors. The Wall Street Journal reports that Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, a longtime friend of the Clintons, steered money to the political campaign of the wife of a top FBI official while the Bureau was investigating her email scandal. McAuliffe's Political Action Committee gave close to $500,000 to her campaign. But the FBI says it's no big deal because the FBI official wasn't involved in the investigation into the Clinton emails until after his wife lost her race.
Critics find it hard to believe that a top FBI official wasn't involved in the department's biggest case, and they call it another example of the questionable probe into the Clinton emails. Trump is calling for an investigation.
Clinton is also dealing with a new undercover video from James O'Keefe's Project Veritas. It shows a political consultant who allegedly worked with the Democratic Party, saying that Clinton authorized the use of Donald Duck costumes at Trump rallies, a potential violation of federal campaign laws.
If the future president of the United States wants ducks on the ground, we will put ducks on the ground.
These issues may or may not spell trouble for Clinton, who appears to enjoy a lead in the polls. She will also campaign in Florida today as both candidates fight to the finish. Heather Sells, CBN News.
You wonder, ladies and gentlemen, you wonder when the American people will wake up. They just say, but apparently they are waking. You go to Florida and the huge crowds for both the Vice President, Pence, and also for the Donald Trump. But Tim Kaine, the Vice President, was down in Florida. He had a rally, and he had all of, 30 people? I think showed up.
So I think
and everybody's, trumpeting that. Trumpeting, okay. Well, one of the top issues in this presidential election is the Supreme Court. And now it looks like the Democrats are ready for any showdown over judges in the Senate. They're going to break time-honored rules with what was called the nuclear option. John Jessup has that.
Thanks, Pat. Nevada Senator Harry Reid says he's laid the groundwork so that Democrats can stop a Republican filibuster to block Hillary Clinton's nominees for the Supreme Court or other judicial posts if she wins the White House and Democrats take back the Senate. In 2013, when Reid was Senate Majority Leader, he got rid of filibusters against the president's nominees, with the exception of the Supreme Court. Reid told the Talking Points Memo website he believes Democrats will change the rules if necessary so that filibusters can't be used against high court nominees. And, Pat, that, of course, would allow a President Hillary Clinton to get her judges on the Supreme Court.
It will also allow a President Trump to do the same thing. And Harry Reid broke time-honored precedents. But don't you remember, year after year after year, outstanding judges were being brought up, especially for the Circuit Court of the District of Columbia. And I'm thinking of one Hispanic gentleman who was one of the most highly qualified judges. And the Democrats filibustered against him, and the Republicans wouldn't break the filibuster. But you call it the nuclear option, and last year I believe it was the Dems, at least when they had control of the Senate, they just used that nuclear option and just blasted right through. Said, we don't care about your filibuster. We're going to put our people on. They said, we will accept the Supreme Court. Now they're saying, Harry Reid is saying that we don't care. But that's going to come back to bite him real big time. John?
Pat, Iraqi forces are battling ISIS for third day east of the city of Mosul. It is Iraq's second largest city, where ISIS has based its Iraqi capital. Islamic State militants attempted 12 car bomb attacks. All of them blew up before hitting their targets. So far, Iraqi troops have suffered a small number of casualties from mortar rounds. The top commander of U.S. land forces in Iraq said U.S. attack helicopters are striking ISIS targets to support the operation. No casualty report has yet been released. Well, more than 1/4 of all deaths from cancer in the United States are linked by one thing: cigarettes. That's the finding from a new study from the American Cancer Society. The study analyzed health surveys and government statistics on about a dozen cancers related to smoking. It found at least 167,000 cancer deaths in 2014 were from smoking. Even though the numbers have been falling, 40 million adults still smoke cigarettes, and Pat, smoking is still the #1 cause of preventable deaths.
1 in 4 of the cancer deaths as a result of smoking. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as a country, we give a subsidy to people who grow tobacco. And we make it easy for them to grow it, and we make it legal for them to sell that stuff. It was some time ago that the heads of all the tobacco companies were embarrassed before Congress to finally admit that these cancer things, these sticks they give, were actually nicotine delivery mechanisms to hook people to smoke, and that smoking indeed was a cause of cancer. It's time that we stop subsidizing tobacco. I suggested, and those people in North Carolina and others who grow tobacco, they're marvelous people. They're hard-working farmers in Kentucky and so forth. But I was saying, look, give a tax holiday to these people, and even the tobacco companies. Give them a 7 or 8 year tax holiday. Let them accumulate all the money they can during that period of time, and at the end of it, have an absolute ban on the growing, manufacture, distribution, sale of cigarettes. And the horrible thing of what we're doing now, not only have we hooked our people, but we are loading the youth of places like Indonesia. They're all being hooked to smoke. And that's the new, quote, market for cigarettes. We've got to do a ban on it. There's no benefit to be found from it. It is cancerous, and not only cancer, you've got Berger's disease, you've got all kinds of high blood pressure, all the other things caused by smoking. And it does nobody any good, and then secondhand smoke can actually make people have cancer as well. Stop it. We cannot subsidize that anymore, despite how many people we love from Kentucky or love from North Carolina. We've got to say no more. But the way to do it is to give them a tax break so that over several years they can phase out the work they're doing and get something more beneficial to society.